How can a tiny local disagreement about movie tickets on a Sunday accidentally spark a massive legal revolution? Well, we're about to dive into a strange but very true story that ended up creating one of the most important legal tools we have for holding power in check. But first, let me ask you this. Do you think your local council, right now, today, could just decide to ban anyone under 15 from going to the cinema on a Sunday? It sounds pretty crazy, right? Well, whether they actually can, and more importantly how you could fight it, all comes back to this one single pivotal case.
So let's hop in a time machine. The year is 1947. We're in a town called Wednesbury in England. The war has just ended, the country is getting back on its feet, and you know what people want? A little bit of escape. And there's no better place for that than the local movie theater.
Now, in this story, you've got two main players. On one side, you have the Associated Provincial Picture Houses. They're the folks who own the local Gaumont cinema. And on the other, you have the Wednesbury Corporation, which is just a fancy name for the local town council, the people making the rules. A classic business versus the government setup. The cinema spot's a big opportunity. They want a license to open up on Sundays, which, believe it or not, was a huge deal back then because of old laws about what you could do on a Sunday. After some back and forth, the council says, okay, fine, you can open. But there was a catch. And oh boy, what a catch it was. And this is where it all kicks off. This one single, really strange condition is the little spark that's about to ignite a legal firestorm that will be felt for generations. So, what was the rule? The council said no children under the age of 15 are allowed in on Sundays. But here's the crucial part, whether accompanied by an adult or not. So this wasn't about making sure kids were supervised. It was just a flat-out, total ban. Now, you and I might think that's unfair, or maybe just bad for business, but the cinema company had to ask a much bigger question. Was this even lawful? Did the council even have the right to put a condition like that on their license?
So what did they do? They did what you do when you think a public body has gone too far. They sued him. They took the council to court, and their whole argument boiled down to one single powerful word. They said the condition was unreasonable. And that word, right there, is the P to this whole thing.
This lawsuit basically forced the court to come up with something brand new, a formal test for what unreasonable actually means. The judge, a man named Lord Green, had to figure out where exactly to draw the line on a local council's power. Now, Lord Green knew he was in a tricky spot. See, it's not a judge's job to just sub in his own opinion. He couldn't say, well, I don't like that rule, so it's gone. That's for the elected officials to decide. The court's job, what's called judicial review, is just to make sure that the power the council was given was used correctly and within its proper boundary. And this is what led him to his now famous ruling. He said that for a court to step in, a decision had to be, and this is the direct quote, so unreasonable that no reasonable authority could ever have come to it. Notice the extra words there. It's not just unreasonable. It's so unreasonable, it basically breaks logic. And just like that, a brand new legal idea was born, known forever after as Wednesbury unreasonableness. It's basically a legal tool that lets a judge throw out a decision, but, and this is a big but, only if that decision is completely, overwhelmingly absurd or irrational. So, what does that actually mean in the real world? This is so important. The legal definition of unreasonable is worlds apart from how you and I use the word every day. The bar to prove this is set incredibly high. Okay, let's put it this way. You might say it's unreasonable that your train is 5 minutes late. And yeah, it's annoying, but in the eyes of the law, that's nothing. Legal unreasonableness is more like the council passing a rule that all dogs must be painted blue. It's an idea that is so nonsensical, so completely illogical that no rational person would ever think it's a good idea. So when a court is looking at a decision, they kind of run down a checklist. They ask, did the council think about stuff it shouldn't have? Did it totally ignore something really important it should have thought about? And even if it did everything else right, was the final decision just completely and utterly absurd? So after all that, what happened back in Wednesbury? Well, here's the big twist. The cinema lost. That's right. The court said that while the council's rule might be strict, maybe even a little unfair, it wasn't so ridiculously absurd that no reasonable counsel could have come up with it. And that surprise ending is exactly what makes this principle so powerful. It shows just how insanely high that bar is. So why on earth are we still talking about a 75-year-old case over Sunday movies? Because the ripple effect from this one decision has been massive. It completely reshaped the relationship between regular people and the government. The legacy here is huge. Think of this case as creating a legal safety net. It's a vital check that forces public bodies to act rationally. It became a cornerstone of what's called administrative law, which is really just the rule book for how government has to behave. From planning permissions to licensing rules, this principle gives all of us a way to challenge truly outrageous decisions.
So the really crucial point is this. Wednesbury unreasonableness is a balancing act. On one hand, it protects us from genuinely crazy abuses of power. But on the other, it also respects the democratic process. It says that elected officials have the right to make decisions, even decisions we don't like, as long as those decisions aren't completely off-the-wall nonsensical.
And all of this leads to a pretty critical question for us today. I mean, governments are now making incredibly complex decisions about things like AI, climate change, things the judge in 1947 couldn't have even dreamed of. In our complicated modern world, is a legal test that's only designed to catch outrageous absurdity still the right tool for the job? Or do we need something a bit more sophisticated? That's a huge debate happening right now, and it's definitely something to think about.